Welcome to the SciManDan podcast, the place where science and conspiracy collide. It's episode number 19. Thank you all very much for joining us. Bit of bad news. Conspiracy Cats, the man himself, can't make it. He's had to work late again. He seems to have an excuse every week, but don't worry. He's back next week, where we've got a special catch-up episode with Cats and I. So we're going to catch up on Flat Earth and what plans for the podcast going forward. We've got a new game as well, which we're going to announce. So let's crack on. This week's guest is a YouTube science communicating giant. He has a master's in science education and is on a quest to increase the general public's scientific literacy. It's Professor Dave. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, feeling good.
Yeah, well, I'm going to let you into a secret. We've already done this intro once already, but good old me forgot to press record, and that was the first time I've ever done it in 19 shows. So Dave's might be a little bit bored talking about what we've just talked about, but don't worry about it. We're going to recreate, as he said, the magic. So, Dave, YouTube. Yes. You've recently hit 1 million subscribers. What is it like? I need to know.
I mean, it's huge. Obviously, it definitely feels really good. It's also a little bittersweet, though, just because looking at the subscriber count, it doesn't feel the same. You know, I don't have that concrete goal that I'm going towards. Like going from 1.18 to 1.19 is just like, I don't care, you know, but yeah. Until I guess 10 million is the next huge milestone. So that's going to take me a while, but
do you get an award for 10 million?
What's that?
Do you get an award for 10 million? I know you get the gold
10 million. Yeah, there is one. Shoot, I don't remember what it is because I know it's like silver and then it's gold. Yeah. I just got the gold.
Is it diamond?
And then it's like diamond, and then something there's like ruby or something. Like they have one for 50 and 100 now because a few YouTubers have 100 million now. Wow, which is insane to me.
I know. I can't imagine. I mean, I was just going to say, as you know, I'm approaching 500,000, and like 100 million seems. Like all the work that you've put in to get this far, it just seems like the amount of work you have to do to get that far is just insane.
I can't even imagine it. Yeah, it's really just PewDiePie and T-Series and I think like one or two other channels. So
how did your YouTube channel come about? Was it a side project to begin with, or did you go all out from the start?
I definitely wasn't like all out from the very start. What happened was I was in a band. It was a touring band, and so we were on the road all the time. And the tours were doing well, and they were paying for themselves. So we weren't incurring expenses, but we weren't really like taking home a bunch of income to be able to pay rent and stuff. So we were in the van in the middle of nowhere, just like, all right, we need ideas what we can all do. And my idea was the YouTube channel. I'd heard, this was 2014, so it wasn't really huge yet, as huge as it is now. And I just thought, maybe I can do something. I had just finished, I taught organic chemistry at a trade university from 2010 to 2013. So I was still pretty fresh off of that. I had all those lectures fresh in my mind. So I just thought, all right, I'll deliver my OChem lectures to camera with a whiteboard and draw and everything, just like I was teaching in class. And I'll put those on YouTube and we'll see what happens. And I got a really positive response from OChem students. They were really, really appreciative of the tutorials. So I decided, all right, I'll do a little more. I'll do Gen Chem. And so we were still on tour and just like writing, I was writing the scripts in the van, and like my buddy was helping animate stuff in the van and stuff. And those did pretty well too. But then after that, like in 2016, the band kind of stopped, 2017, maybe the band kind of stopped working out, and I just thought, all right, well, this channel has already got some momentum, so this is now my A plan, and I've just been working relentlessly since about mid 2016 on the channel. So I
was going to say, so you're full time with it, yeah?
Oh yeah. Have been for a long time, even when it wasn't really feasible. What had happened was I pretty much stopped all like teaching and tutoring and focused full time on the channel. And then even when it wasn't profitable, it was great because I had a lot of visibility. So companies and websites would contact me with private contracts. So I'd make content for them privately for money. Nice. They would be like, we love what you do. Do it for us. Only for us, for money. And here's some money. And I'm like, great, give me the money and I'll make you the content. And that way I can still pay my bills and stuff while the channel is not. Because at first the channel was earning nothing, pennies a day. But then what had like around 2016, I looked at, socialblade.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went on there and I was just like, all right, if I'm going to take this seriously, like, what are YouTubers really making? And I couldn't believe it. Like, I would type in like some of the bigger YouTubers at that time, even educational channels, and I was like, you can make 7 figures on YouTube. Like, I really couldn't believe it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do this 70 hours a week until I'm making a good amount of money. And luckily, 5 years later, it worked. Not, certainly not making like what PewDiePie's making, but I am, living comfortably on AdSense revenue. So
it's scary, isn't it, to take that leap into full time with it?
I mean, not as bad for me though, just because I had like nothing else. Like I had nothing else that I wanted to do, nothing else that I really could do. I'm kind of unemployable, because I'm sort of I don't work well with, I don't work well under people.
Okay.
So there's nothing else. I was just like, this is all I have, so I'm just going to do this, Mm-hmm.
When you talked about how much they make, my kids watched a lot of Ryan's toys review.
God.
And I out of interest, I looked it up and I was like, what?
Yep.
He must be the richest kid in the world.
They make 8 figures on AdSense revenue. Then don't even get me started on like sponsorships and like, from toys. And then they sell their own merchandise. I mean, those people are making, it's obscene.
Yeah.
So I just figured, all right, I'll make, 1/20th of, or 100th of what these people are making. And, I was just looking at first to just like be able to pay my rent while I was out on the road. And then 2 years later, I was like, wait, this could actually be like a SciComm career. Like I can make a career out of this, and then maybe like fund my own artistic projects later, which was starting to almost be able to do. But it was a huge turning point in my life, and really the first thing in my life that ever really, really worked out.
Yeah,
so
same. Quite similar.
That was great.
The areas of science that I've seen you cover are phenomenal on the channel. You pretty much sweep the board in terms of topics. What's your favorite type of science to do videos on? I know you say you're an OChem guy, but
yeah, I mean, I love chemistry. I love explaining chemistry because that's what I understand the best. And so I'm able to make content on chemistry that's a little deeper than the other content that's out there. But like my super favorite stuff is space stuff. I love, I've been obsessed with space since I was a little kid. But actually, to be honest, what I'm really excited about now is, now that I have a little bit of cash flow, I can hire a bunch of writers, which is very convenient because I've completely exhausted every subject that I have any business talking about on my own. So I can hire, like, I've got somebody doing immunology content for me. So when I make the content, I'm learning immunology. So I'm like learning all these new topics, mycology and like all these things. I don't know anything about this stuff, but I'm able to hire experts in these fields that write me the scripts, and then I can go and animate and learn while I'm doing it. So I've been learning a lot in the past couple of years as I transition to content that is predominantly not written by myself.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to start taking notes. Start taking notes on what Dave does, and then it's a good idea. I like that. So yeah, as you said, speciality wise, you'd call yourself an organic chemist, wouldn't you? What made you want to get into that?
So I went to a place called Carleton College, which is a liberal arts college, which means you take a lot of, distro credits, we would call them. You have to take a lot of credits in a lot of things. And because of that, they allow you to declare a major end of sophomore year, as opposed to a lot of schools, you got to declare right up front.
Right.
So I was in college and I just thought, all right, I'm either going to do, like, I liked science. I did well in science in high school and I liked science. So I thought, all right, maybe chemistry, maybe physics, maybe math, or maybe music, because I knew I really wanted to do music. I just thought science would be maybe a more practical route. And so I took a lot of different classes, and math, I got to like linear algebra and like differential equations. I was like, I don't like this. Like, I don't know. This is hard. And it was really just organic chemistry 1, sophomore year, where I was just like, I really like this. Like, you're first of all, the fact that we can, it just completely blew my mind, the control we have over the molecular world, that we can, first of all, know what these structures are and second, build essentially any molecule we want by manipulating molecules, and I saw it as like Legos, and you could connect them in all these different ways, and I just thought it was so cool. So I thought, all right, I'll major in chemistry. I even at that time wanted to be a musician and thought I'd be a musician for my whole life, but I just thought this is so cool, and I'm at this great school where these amazing teachers can teach me all this amazing science, so I better do that, and also take like my music lessons and music classes on the side. But I just thought, all right, I'm going to major in chemistry because this is fascinating and I like it. And so it really was nothing more than that. It was just, I just thought it was really cool.
It's weird. It's not very often that you start wanting to do something and then you kind of transition halfway through. You're a little bit like a US Brian Cox, because obviously he was in a band, wasn't he, before he became big in science.
Yes. That's true. Although he went all the way with academia and actually has a doctorate and everything. Yeah. I never, I didn't go the route for a doctorate. In fact, I was at first doing a master's in synthetic organic chemistry a couple of times, actually. And then I had to transition to science education for various reasons. But really all it was that as I was trying to be a musician all throughout my 20s and into my early 30s, I was teaching chemistry and other subjects just because I had to make money, and my most marketable skill was explaining chemistry. So I just thought, at least I can make like $40 an hour tutoring chemistry or, teaching that one course at this university. It was just the easiest way for me to make money and pay my rent without like having to get like a 9-to-5 like some of my friends had. And I've never had one of those in my life. So I consider myself pretty lucky in that regard. But it's a strange turn of events, but the way the channel got going and the way it ended up progressing now, this is definitely SciComm is huge part of my life, which I'm excited about.
Well, you're very, very good at it. So you recently posted your 1000th video, didn't you?
It's true. Yeah.
I'm at 400 myself, almost. I think I just passed 400. When you started, did you ever think you'd be on 1,000 videos?
No, definitely not. The first thing I posted was about 40 OChem tutorials. And then after that, I did about 40 Gen Chem tutorials. And I thought that was a lot. I thought that was a mountain of content at the time. Yeah. But once I settled into my my workaholic workflow, that my conception of an amount of content changed. Although I will say for me, it's a little bit misleading just because it is a lot of content, but for example, when I do like my Italian tutorials, that's 120 tutorials, many of which are only 3 to 4 minutes long. Yeah. And they're relatively easy to produce, just some images and text. So when I was doing those, I could knock out 5 in a day, post-production wise. So it's definitely, most people, yourself included, your content, a little bit longer form, a little bit like more to it. So I get more volume that way, but it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. I can appreciate the work involved, and I think a lot of people don't, do they? I tell people now that I do this for a living, and they just think they think it's easy. And you think, well, you've got to write, you've got to film, you've got to edit, you've got to be able to do all this stuff. Yeah. And it does take time.
Yeah, the post-production is the biggest part. I actually just found somebody that might, it's looking promising. He's doing a test piece for me right now to see if he can kind of mimic my post-production style so I can offload, 20% of it over to him. Okay. And fingers crossed, because, I have a very particular aesthetic and it has to look a certain way. And I've tried it a few times and the couple of people who have tried it it did not work out. So hoping this one works out, I can pay him a rate to do some of my post-production for me, just because I'm completely burnt out. Like I cannot sustain what I've been doing for the past 5 years. So
yeah, it is very difficult. So normally this is the time where we'd have a little interlude and Katz would tell us about something that has piqued his interest in the world of science over the last week. Obviously he's not here, but last week he talked about the storms you have in America, the hurricanes. Did you know that they were named before the season? The whole list of names are already pre-decided. Did you know that?
I knew that they're in alphabetical order. Right?
Yeah, but they're all chosen beforehand, which I didn't know.
Right. So we can't really say that they're named on any particular details regarding that individual storm.
Yeah,
it's just aren't they all female names too?
I don't know. They aren't over here. So if we have we don't get hurricanes, but we call
them
storms. So like storm. I can't remember a recent one, but we have male ones over here, definitely.
Okay. I think they're all female in America, which is, you could argue, is a bit sexist.
Yes, but, yeah, you could. Yeah. My running coach would not be happy with that. Absolutely. Right, Dave, you don't label yourself properly as a debunker, do you? But you took the debunking world by storm when you tore the Globebusters a new one. What was that experience like?
It was pretty great. I mean, I'm glad it happened, because that's sort of what got me into it. And I don't think I would have started down this path otherwise. So I definitely have to thank them for that. Yeah. But I don't know. At the time, I thought it would, like, now I look back on it as such a silly and like meaningless interaction. But at the time, I was like really offended. I made this little innocuous video for my astronomy series, and then by chance it went to the #1 search result for the flat Earth keyword like that day or the next day. Yeah. So here come, big britches Globebusters, like, oh, we're going to tear this video apart and this live stream. And what's even better is that I was in the chat and the live stream at the time trying to argue with them and being ignored with them, and being ignored by them. But the funny thing is, I'm glad I did that, because my commentary riled them up, which made them say dumber things. Yeah. So after the fact, I had this 3-hour gem of just like pure idiocy, wall to wall, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna chop this up and make fun of it. And it's by far the most viewed video on my channel, and so it's pretty fun. They weren't happy at all, were they? If anyone hasn't seen it, so basically they produced a video and Globebusters attempted to try and debunk this video live, didn't they? And they were just saying all this absolute nonsense, probably pulling stuff out of their arse as they were talking. And you were there in the side chat trying to say, no, this is what this, and they were ignoring you, as you say, and they were absolutely fuming. And then you backed that up afterwards, didn't you, with the second one? Yeah, I don't think that they thought, like, they just thought, like, here's some schmuck, like they thought he's not a debunker, so like he's not gonna, this isn't gonna be a big deal. It's easy content for us. Yeah, but I took their video and I showed how dumb they are. So it was pretty fun. And I got, some feedback and like a positive response. And so I made a few more of those. But then what I realized was, #1, how satisfying it is to do that, and how much people like that kind of content. Yeah. And I realized I can apply this approach to other problems, other much bigger problems, other things that are more needed to be debunked. So yeah, I've branched into a lot of other things. So yeah, I mean, I think now I would label myself a debunker. I probably fought it for about a year, but now I wear the label with pride. You got to give in. You got to give in. Well, I mean, I think, and Katz would agree with me, you've had a massive impact on what we do. Because lots of people mention your video against the Globebusters. Lots of people mention the videos you've done where you've tried to disprove flat Earth without using science. Which are really good examples of what to watch as well. And I'm fairly sure that without anyone admitting it, that you've probably turned a few people back to reality. Yeah, some have admitted it. Some flat out say so in the comment section. So, I mean, imagine all the ones that don't say anything. Yeah, I mean, I get maybe one message on average a month. So we're saying someone from someone. So I think there probably is more that don't actually message me, but it's nice. It's nice to hear. And I mean, it's a small pool. As much as they like to inflate their numbers, there can't be more than a few thousand of these people in the entire world. You get a couple hundred. That's big. That's a big chunk. Yeah. One of the funniest things that I did was the UK conference. They had someone filming it, and I think it was before they'd started, and they panned across, and there was about 3 people sat in a massive amount of chairs. And I basically said, "Oh, how's it going at the UK conference?" And then we just saw these 3 people. Honestly, they do try and say there's more. They're claiming that people are waking up every day, aren't they? Right. There's millions. There's millions. And this is their entire identity, and yet only 5 of them can make the trip. to buy a t-shirt. Yeah.
Um,
It's really sad in the way, like, because there's so many of these scams and hoaxes that follow the same formula. You lie and you have the conference and you make the money. There's Electric Universe and there's all these other things. But this is like the short bus version where the debunkers are so dumb. Like the other ones are clever. Like they know how to lie and they can sound smart, even to smart people.
Yeah.
But the flat earth priests are the dumbest people and they're just so bad at it. It's just really hilarious to me.
Well, I don't know if you've heard, but Bob has started to come down on the side of gravity being gravity.
Who is what?
Bob, you know Bob, the guy that runs Globebusters.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, he's coming down on the fact that he thinks gravity is now actually a thing. So he's moving in the right direction.
Okay.
Earth is still flat though, but you know he's starting to.
Earth is still flat, but gravity somehow exists as though the Earth was round. That makes perfect sense.
Question from Katz. He wants to know: a lot of conspiracy theories are born out of misunderstanding of actual science, which we know. Have you ever come across a conspiracy where the level of understanding has to be that high that you can sort of forgive those that fall for it?
I mean, I can forgive a lot of them. I mean, like Flat Earth is really the only one that's truly unforgivable because it's debunkable by looking at things in the sky and thinking with your brain. But I mean, most of them, like even anti-vax, like it's hard because you've got these smart people that are really good at lying and they take on the guise of expertise and they know how to use the buzzwords and they present what look like legitimate studies that look exactly like legitimate studies, you know, so you can't, like, it's hard. I mean, I'd say maybe Electric Universe is probably the hardest one, like, because most people don't understand physics, you know, and you have to know like a little bit of physics. So, I mean, I want to be a little bit charitable and say that a lot of them are rather forgivable. It's just that they all follow the same patterns. They all follow the same anti-establishment narrative, just the same tired conspiratorial nonsense. It's just a common thread that runs through all of them. So
yeah, absolutely. Which brings us nicely onto your new book. So you're kind of going after those sorts of people, aren't you? You're trying to help the general public understand what's real and what's not, aren't you?
Yes, and it's I do talk a lot about hoaxes and con men, but I'm sort of more coming at it from a foundation of just general confusion amongst the general public, general pseudoscientific trends, vocabulary words that are not understood, like natural, synthetic, toxin, organic, theory, energy, these kind of words that are in that are in the vernacular that are not understood by a shocking majority of people. And it's sort of like, if I can give people the very rudimentary scientific understanding or scientific worldview by correcting some of these misconceptions, by showing the anatomy of the misconception, it then becomes very clear how these con men exploit that confusion, right? Because you can't just make up anything. You have to make up something that sounds right. And to make up something that sounds right, you have to find a very prevalent confusion in the masses and kind of hammer on that. Yeah. So that's what they do. So those are kind of the pitfalls that I'm trying to fill in.
Well, it's a great cause to try and justify in time of kind of get those people to realize that these things aren't what the perpetrators are saying.
Right.
So was it your tangle with Globebusters that kind of started you on that journey for this book?
A little bit. Half of it. Half of it. So I had actually already been giving talks as early as 2015 about public perception of science. And so, to be honest, I think the book is more based on those talks. Okay. But the debunking stuff sort of put me, like, it made me want to get more, like, in people's faces about it a little bit, just really more direct and really more, I think what the debunking stuff has done is it's elucidated for me the anatomy of the hoax. Okay. Because I've been investigating all these different hoaxes and I really see what they are and how they're all kind of offshoots of the same thing. So I had already been playing around with like these natural, synthetic, and these words, these buzzwords, organic, that people don't seem to understand. So I just sort of took all of these things. I took like what I do on the channel, like the academic tutorials. Those kind of show up because I give these like 10-page brief like summaries of the basics of what you learn in chemistry, biochemistry, biology, physics, and then I apply them to these misunderstandings and to these hoaxes. And it's just sort of a smorgasbord of debunking in a sense. Yeah.
I guess it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because you're pointing people away from these things, but they're also getting a bit of an education as well, aren't they?
A little bit. Yeah. It's just like, if I could wave a magic wand, what I really want is for the entire world to have like a B- level understanding of high school chemistry, biology, and physics. Like really not that much. Yeah. It's really not like an enormous ask. It's stuff that we probably all learned in school and forgot. But it's just, if I could bestow the entire global population with that basic understanding, that's sort of what the book tries to do. It's like, okay, here, like the whole book starts with, here's the structure of a molecule in line notation, with all the hexagons and the lines and the symbols. Most people look at molecular structures in line notation and it's just their eyes glaze over, right? What are all these shapes and what does this mean? And what I try to say right off the bat is, okay, just I know this seems like you're going to have to learn a lot, but it's really not. Look ahead 15 pages. This is all I'm going to do. All I got to do is explain to you some things about atoms, molecules, chemical bonding, and explain to you this notation, and you'll understand what this says. And you need to understand what this says. So please help. Let me explain to you what this means in the fewest number of words that are humanly possible. I pride myself in being very succinct, and so that's what I try to bring to the book there for these basic scientific disciplines.
I get completely what you're saying about that, the B- level thing. I used to run an introduction to astronomy course in my local area. I did it once every few months, got about 10 or 15 people at a time. And one of the first things I did was I had a picture of all the planets in a row, but I had them all the same size on the paper. And I just said, rank the planets in size order. Now, to me, it just seems like a completely obvious, an obvious answer. I know the size of the planets. 1 in 10 got it right, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, to get all 8,
to get all 8 in the correct order of size.
Yeah. Most people, I think, know Jupiter is the biggest, but
you'd be surprised.
It's hard to.
You'd be surprised. But it wasn't just that. They were doing things like getting Venus in with the gas giants in terms of size. They were really, really messing it up. Right. Mercury was, someone said Mercury was second biggest or something, and it just really surprised me that something as well known as the planets and the size of them isn't understood. It's just not understood by hardly anyone.
Yeah.
Very surprising to me. Very surprising. Right. So, Dave, do you know of Guess the Conspiracy, the greatest game show that's hit the internet by storm?
I'm not aware, but it sounds fascinating.
Well, it's time to play.
Okay.
So this is the point where Katz and I have come up with a fake conspiracy each. So there's going to be 3 conspiracies. 2 of them have been fabricated by myself and Katz, and 1 is a real conspiracy theory in that people believe it, not that it's a real thing. We're getting good. We're getting good at making these ones up. It's 10-7 to us. So 10 to Katz and I, 7 to the guests. If you get it right. If you get it wrong, you'll be joining the likes of Professor Jim Al-Khalili, and Professor Chris Lintop from The Sky at Night. So, you'll be in good company if you get it wrong. So don't worry.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Sounds good.
Here we go. Here's the 3. Number 1. Smart speakers listen in on people's conversations and give subliminal low-frequency messages to globe Earth doubters. That's number 1. Number 2. CERN is actually a secret government base that hides celebrities who are supposed to have died, experimenting on them to find a cure for death. That's number 2.
Okay.
And number 3, there was once a shell of supercooled ice 10 miles above the Earth's surface that blocked X-rays from hitting Earth. That's your 3.
I'm gonna scrap 1.
Okay.
Because if that was a real flat Earth talking point, I'd have heard it by now, because I've heard every flat Earth talking point.
That's what I was worried about.
Yeah. Two, I'm leaning towards two because I know that there's all this crap with CERN and this CERN pagan devil ritual parade stuff. I've heard a bunch of nonsense about that. So read for me 2 and 3 again, and I'll decide.
Okay, so 2 is CERN is actually a secret government base that hides celebrities who are supposed to have died, experimenting on them until they find a cure for death. And number 3, there was once a shell of super-cooled ice 10 miles above the Earth's surface that blocked X-rays from hitting Earth.
So the only thing I don't like about 2 is the death bit. I feel like that's not the way they would go with it.
Okay.
And 3 has this like biblical overtone that seems to give it some kind of credence. So I'm pretty torn, but I think I'm going to go with 3.
You're going with 3. Final answer.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, here we go. Oh, no, wrong button. Yay! Well done. Well done. Yeah, do you know what? I was a bit worried because this is... I saw this from Kent Hovine's channel. This
oh, really?
super cooled ice, which I thought you may have seen. So I was a little bit worried about that one.
I haven't heard of that specifically, but I do know that they talk about like the firmament, and they literally think things like there was water in the sky, like an ocean in the sky and things like that. So I think I'd heard something similar to that, which is why I thought it was that.
Yeah. Well,
but the CERN thing was a good one because I almost picked that.
That was mine. The CERN one. Almost got you. I shouldn't have put the death thing. I should have put something else as a reason as to why they've done it.
Right. I think you should have done something more religious and satanic with it, because people fall for that stuff.
Yeah. Okay, next time. But anyway, it's 10-8 now. 10-8 to us. You've pulled one back. Incidentally,
cool.
that Kent video where he talked about that, he also said to use a concrete umbrella to stop yourself getting wrinkles. How about that?
I mean, and that doesn't even rank anywhere near on his top list of dumb things he's ever said.
Anyone who knows him, absolutely not. No. Yeah. Anyway, Dave, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great honor to have you on. Great chat. So your book is called...
It's called Is This Wi-Fi Organic? A Guide to Spotting Misleading Science Online.
Brilliant. Love it. We'll put the links to that in the description so people can go and check that out. Check out Professor Dave Explains on YouTube, and you're on Twitter as well, aren't you?
Yeah, Dave Explains on Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff. I'm not really good at social media, but I'm there.
Me neither. I need someone to manage it for me. Anyway, we are done. Listen, Katz has got a video coming out soon. He's told me about it, and I think it could be groundbreaking for Flat Earth. They're not going to be happy with it. Put it that way. If it pans out the way it has, so keep an eye out on Katz's channel, because he really has got a beauty if it pans out. Anyway, we're done. As I said, next week, it's just Katz and I. We're having a catch up. We're talking about a few things, a bit about the podcast and what we're going forward, and we'll talk about the new game we've got as well. We are done. Hope you all have a great week. See you all soon. Goodbye.